Hello everybody and welcome to Corviknights at the Round Table. It's Late Night Corviknights Season 2 and you might have noticed that there's something slightly different going on today. That is because today IamMac404 is not here, I'm afraid. But we are lucky enough to be joined by the one and only CptAuro here today to talk about his run at the Lille Regionals. So everybody please give it up for CptAuro. Woo! Thank you guys out there. Thank you. Rillaboom, great to see you again there. Incineroar, that's your favourite spot right there. No one's ever taken that seat from you. Okay, great to have everybody here. So, you know, first of all, today, IamMac isn't here because he's off getting married. So congratulations, IamMac, for becoming Mr. and Mrs. 404. So, I mean, obviously it wouldn't be a Corviknights at the Round Table today without going over a couple of bits of our VGC news. But first of all, before we get into that, I just want to say, CptAuro, thank you again for coming by. How have you been today?
Yeah, I've not been too bad. Thank you very much for having me, and congratulations to Mac as well on getting married. Hope he had a good wedding, and I'm sure I'll speak to him soon about it. Obviously played in Dortmund, when was that, like 2-3 weeks ago, and then played in Lille this weekend, so been very heavily invested in Regulation H, which I've been enjoying.
Regulation H has been a bit of a beast so far. We've been seeing loads of alterations on teams, new things coming up. I mean, it feels like forever ago that it was all about Artuladon and Ursula Bloodmoon, and now they're just there, and you just have to think about them, but nowhere near as much as Sneasler. And those are the good old days.
I love Sneasler. I'm a Sneasler lover, and I'm sorry, but I will be taking it to Reg G with me. Like, that is just a fact for me.
Oh.
I've run 3 different sets, and every set is just viable. Like, it's just a broken... It's not broken, but it's a stupid mon. Like, the fact that you can get a 50% chance...
That's just crazy.
Like, okay.
50% is wild, really, isn't it?
The fact they nerfed it as well.
Let's get to a little bit of Twitter news. Of course, you know, the Lille Regional being on everybody's minds, and particularly in this community, because we were lucky enough to see not only a Corviknight in the final, but also taking the crown. Everybody popping off hard at the Corviknight, just bulking up and then getting frozen in place for what was probably the longest freeze time of the entire tournament. Maybe even more time saw frozen on stream than any other Pokemon combined, which is quite impressive, really, considering that it actually did win. Some of you might have seen it from this beautiful post from Geo as well. Probably wondering how I got here. That moment where the Corviknight just turned its head at the camera was possibly one of the most iconic moments in VGC history.
I feel like it's just saying, not again.
Yeah. It was just like, the fact that it happened in round 3 and it was right at the end of the game, it just took that Dragon Claw while frozen like an absolute champ. I did manage to get quite a funny little clip, actually. I'll have to edit that in.
I hope he doesn't forfeit, because I want to see the Corviknight go down with grace. I just want to see it fate that way.
I want to see it unthor win the game.
Oh, it doesn't connect.
No.
Oh, okay. No, that doesn't KO either. Come on, Cole. Come on. Come on. No.
Did you see when its body turned back to face Ninetales? Its head is still looking up.
Oh my god, it is.
That's kind of freaky if you think about it.
Bro did not let that Dragon Claw lying down. It's not happy with that. The fuck?
Come on, please. If it's
Oh, and it's Terrasco there as well. That's how much faith he has in this Corviknight. Come on.
I love you, Nils.
Even if it did hit, so maybe buying one extra turn, but let's see, Blizzard.
Wow.
Chris the Magmar though.
Dragon Claw comes through onto the Magmar, leaving Nils with just this frozen Corviknight in play for game 1.
Let's see if it can unthor and finally get off a move.
No.
This time, and
You might
now
lose.
it is safe for Victor.
Yeah, a Corviknight down on its luck as well, not getting any of these chances to unthor. The fact that it's
He's
also
really
water
thinking
type
about
means
it.
it will take
No, he's just taking it so seriously.
Yeah, that's
Can still win though. Facing the big steel bird.
Your Highness, I 50 farewell.
Oh, it turned his head back though.
Yeah,
Please.
Hey, that's somehow how you do it.
Absolutely brilliant. Of course, Frozen Corviknight wasn't the craziest thing that we saw. Of course, Jamie Boyd attended this regional, but it wasn't exactly what we expected. Luigi De Filippo matched against Jamie Boyd in, I can't remember what round this was, but possibly one of the most interesting teams that we have seen so far. There's a couple of the regular folk in there, even the Flamigo is a little bit more commonplace, but Crocodile and then regular Avalog and the Tentacruel, that is interesting. And to be matched against the one and only Jamie Boyd with this team of what looks like relatively standard folk in comparison, very well pointed out there by Chaz Ingdra, who was casting the event. Brilliant, as always. If we want to have a little closer look at the team there, give it to us courtesy of C-Butty. The Flamigo, Crocodile, Tentacruel, Avalog, Ninetales, Archulodon comp is real, guys. Simon, how would you have felt about this if you had matched up against this during your run?
Well, one, I was running Spam, so I wouldn't have liked the Crocodile straight away. I'd be like, I'm killing that thing. My Sneasler's coming in, killing that thing as soon as possible. Two, yeah, I'd just be looking at it and going, what's my line into this? Like, what is my line? Like, how do I deal with it? I mean, that was round, because I remember, because I spoke to Boyer afterwards about it, and it was round 8, so it was the winning in.
Oh.
So it's winning in. Because the round 7, he would have won his winning in if his Matcha Gacha hadn't missed, which is hilarious, because the signature that he had was from my good friend Manny.
Oh, yeah?
Traded it to Boyer for the tournament, and Matcha Gacha missed, and Manny was bigging it up all week because it had missed the Matcha Gacha, and then it missed the one Matcha Gacha it should have.
Oh, that is unfortunate. So unfortunate. I mean, landing so much on the RNG. I think I even saw a video that kind of happened to come out right after, I think either during the weekend or after the weekend by, I think it's Scraw VGC, and they did a really good video on whether or not luck or RNG or anything like that is really healthy for the game. And it was an interesting look that this couldn't have been timed more perfectly. With a move missing is one thing, but the Diaclaw chance, I think, has put it in everybody's mind that there is a certain amount of random chance that can really, really tilt a player.
Yeah, I definitely think obviously RNG is a factor that you have to kind of accept is in the game, and you kind of have to go, okay, they are going to click Diaclaw. There is a 50% chance of something happening. And then, obviously if it's poison point, there's an increased chance of poison, which you probably look at it now and go, poison's the least of my worry. I don't want to get parried or I don't want to get slept. I literally played the game yesterday perfectly on Showdown, and then I got parried, and I was like, right, as long as I don't get full parried, I'm fine. Full para. I was like, it's fine. I've got one more turn. Full para. I was like, I've just lost.
Yeah,
I was like, no.
When you're very confident and you think, this is it, we've done it. Even with the speed difference, it's all fine. No, didn't move.
Yeah, exactly.
Painful. Speaking of plays, maybe we should segue. And speaking of segue, I just want to show off this little meme that Alex threw up in our show notes. Never take an Uber in West Province. Uber is really higher than anyone these days. I mean, guys got rent to pay, Shrine rent is high. Nice one there from Andy Ocelot. Thank you very much.
Hey there, Iron Mac here, one of the hosts of the London Corviknight podcast. These podcasts cover debates about Pokemon VGC, regional reviews, interviews with our community members, and much more. Hope you enjoy the show.
So let's get on to some of the more on-the-ground reporting from Lille Regional. So, CptAuro, I mean, you've been on the show before. Just to give, anybody who might be new, a quick rundown on your history in VGC.
Yeah, of course. I've been involved in Pokemon since I was young and the game's been out, but I've started in VGC during the pandemic. What a great time to get involved. One, the game was so much more accessible. Two, I had way too much time on my hand. Let's just put it that way. So then after obviously the pandemic finished, my first tournament was EUIC 2013, went 5-4, and I thought, this might be something to do. Met loads of people there, got on with them, and just started falling in love with the game, but also the social side of it as well. Just meeting so many great people, chatting, talking to them, not just about Pokemon, but life. And then last season, I finished about 80 points off of Worlds qualification. That was down to me, one, not prepping for regionals properly. to not going to enough regionals to maybe make up the points later in the season. This season, my objective is to try and qualify for Worlds. I have plotted a course for it. That is going to be based off how well I do at Gdansk and Stuttgart in the following weeks. So we'll see how we do there. But yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell in terms of VGC. I do stream as well. I haven't streamed recently, but I'm going to get back on it. I've had a little break while doing these tournaments.
We've got lots to look forward to in terms of your play style as well. I mean, if anyone can recall from the last stream that we had you on, we did a fantastic team report of your quite goated Hisuian Gudra that put in some really, really good work in, I think it was Regulation E, was it? Or Regulation F? I can't quite remember.
E and F.
E and F, yeah. So with such similar vibes to those formats, but with some changes, it's interesting to see. If we have a look at your open team sheet, so if everyone would like to draw your attention to the board, no Hisuian Gudra in sight, but we do have that Sneasler like you mentioned earlier. So how about you give us a little rundown of the team you brought here?
Beginning of Reg H, I started playing Spam based off of KD going, hey, Hisuian Bravery is really good. I played Spam back in Sword and Shield as well, so it's something I was kind of comfortable with. I kind of knew the lines, I just need to reacquaint. So I just played the common Spam matchup. In Dortmund, I took Hisuian Bravery plus Rain, so Basque Legion, Archludon, and Politoad over Pelipper for the Haze user for my Dozo matchup, alongside Bravery, Sneasler, and Indeedee. Female Indeedee. So for this team, what happened essentially was, I was like, confident in this team. I didn't have a huge amount of prep. I literally got to Monday before the tournament on a call with my friends, and they went, Simon, how are you doing? I was like, I don't have a team, boys. I've tried on the weekend and it did not work. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's just not working anymore. And they were like, right, let's sit down and kind of do this. And Manny again came up with the idea of, hey, why don't you do the Gardevoir Garchomp that was World's runner-up in, I think it was the Judy Azzarelli versus Senjin finals. And I was like, yeah, cool, that's Spam, I can do that. So we'll grab it in DD, but I want to go with male this time because that has been popping up and male outspeeds female majority of the time. And then we were trying to build around and we were like, okay, who should be our Spam user this time? Because Hisuian Bravery's, we can scarf it, but it's not that fast and it doesn't have huge useful tech. And we were like, well, Gardevoir, Telepathy, I can just free the Earthquake and Expanding Force at the same time. Our issues started coming when we were thinking about the last 3 slots. I knew straight away I wanted Sneasler. Sneasler was one of my top performing mons at Dortmund. As I said, I ran a very different set with Psychic Seed, Sword Stance, Close Combat, Diaclaw. But based off that Dortmund team, I was like, I have a huge Golden Go issue.
Yeah.
So I couldn't hit Golden Go. And originally the set was actually Safety Goggles in DD and Focus Sash Sneasler with coaching. But again, I found the same issue going into it, going, I can't hit Golden Go because Corviknight goes down, Driftblind does no damage to it, and therefore Garchomp is fully responsible as a Golden Go counter. So that was a big kind of concern. Now, luckily, I did some coaching with Judy Azzarelli. Jody Azzarelli. And did some bits with him, and he was like, look, you do have an issue, let's try and figure it out. We played a few matchups, and then we came up with the idea of White Herb, Sneasler with Throat Chop, and then I came up with the idea of Terra Ground in DD based off of Jack Clark's team that did well at Dortmund over the Terra Fighting that I previously had. That was for 2 reasons. I could still hit the Incineroar pretty hard, and I could hit the Golden Go. Does about 70% to a non-terrored Golden Go. Still Terra, it will do around 80 to 90%. In a good position there. It also outspeeds, so I can lead Gardevoir and Indeedee pretty freely into the Golden Go matchup. We wanted to continue on the theme of the Earthquake kind of spam with no damage, so Corviknight came in. I've previously used Corviknight in Regulation C, and it was so fun to use. It's stupid. You can literally 1v4 teams as long as you get rid of their special attacker. Corviknight came in real clutch, and it is a faster version, so it outspeeds certain Pokemon as well, and it's a bit more of a defensive version as well. Drifblim was the last member of the team. We don't have Tailwind, we don't have Haze. We've got a really bad speed matchup, and we've got a really bad Dondozo matchup. We were looking at all the options, and we were all like, if we remove the Psychic Seed from the Sneasler, we can drop it onto the Drifblim, run Acrobatics, Haze, Tailwind, and I opted for Will-O-Wisp over Strength Sap because I was like, we have a bad Dragapult and King Gambit matchup if we go Strength Sap. One, you're giving the Defiant boost. Two, you're not doing any drops to the Clear Body Dragapult. So the Will-O-Wisp was a counter to those two, which did actually help a lot in the matchups when I played those Pokemon. When prepping for the tournament, I had some really good games, and I was just outside of top 500 on Showdown Ladder. So that was literally from Monday to Thursday. That's how quickly the team kind of grew and went up, and we made the alterations as we went during that week as well.
All right.
So that's kind of the team in a nutshell. So it's Psyspam with a Quake option on it as well.
All right. I mean, it's really interesting to see these like Quake options coming back up again. Garchomp being there, coming back up is really cool. Seeing Drifblim coming up and now. And I mean, the Indeedee Drifblim combo that we saw, I think it was at Baltimore Regional. They kind of started coming up there. You know, almost people weren't even expecting it. But then now that it's commonplace, you know, we see a lot of the Pokemon on this team starting to do some really, really good stuff. I mean, if we even look at bits here, I mean, day one, your Garchomp's there, and you've got all of like your standard threats as well, but the Sneasler up there as well. And Dragonite, interesting as well. I mean, not very many, you know, there are certain archetypes that definitely fallen off, haven't there? Like Psyspam seems to be doing okay, but it's not really up here, is it? That's an interesting aspect. And then you've got things like Priospam also falling off as well, even despite the Psyspam not being seen very well, but obviously performing very well.
Yeah, and I think the reason why I opted for Psyspam was because of Sneasler. Because Sneasler, if you think about the dark types in the meta, they're King Gambit and Incin.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So if you're a dark type and I lead Indeedee Sneasler, one, I've just you've procced my White Herb if you're Incin, so I'm faster. Two, you have to decide, do I Terra or do I not Terra? And we're now in a 50-50 situation where I go, okay, you got Incin plus Golden Go on the field. What am I more bothered about? Golden Go. Taking that out. So if you Terra on your Incin as well, then my Expanding Force is hitting you.
Ah, yeah.
So you're worried about my CC, but actually I'm just going, I'm not worried about you. I'm going to go after your Golden Go. And if you play Protect, then, okay, whatever's coming in on that other spot is taking the Expanding Force in the face again. I think probably the more difficult matchup for the Psyspam stuff is the Rillaboom stuff. Because you get the terrain taken away from you. Indeedee Metal's naturally faster than Rillaboom, so you can't lead it. Obviously, they have fake out pressure onto the Sneasler, so you can't Diaclaw. Diaclaw won't KO the one unless you get a crit. You do need to kind of play that matchup clever, and also I think AV Rillaboom doesn't take a huge amount of damage. I think it's like 30 to 40% off an Expanding Force, even in the terrain. So it's kind of like one of the harder matchups there, I would say.
I mean, it sounds like your teams, it did kind of help you to construct quite a lot of pins. I mean, having the Will-O-Wisp on there is like threatening any physical attacker. You've got your ground types, which like is obviously such good coverage, and your flying types to cover with that. I mean, did you? How did you struggle into the dreaded steel types and dragon types in the tournament?
I went 4-4, so I can't say, oh yeah, I did fantastic, blah blah blah. You know, there were games where I felt I should have played better. There's definitely two games that stand out in my mind where I played a solo Dozo and I could have played a different line, which I figured out at the end. And then there was a balanced team that I've practiced so much against, and I need to take one risk in this balanced matchup, and I kind of win the game there. And I didn't take that risk. I can happily say I didn't take that risk. If I had, that matchup was mine.
All right.
But that's what I need to kind of read into, and it's always kind of hard depending on who you're playing.
I mean, we got your matchups actually right here on screen. In round one, straight off against the Pavilion. That's very interesting. It's an interesting team that they've got there with the 2 tailwind setters. It's not something that we see very often. What was the first real standout match that you did here?
So round one actually is quite a awkward one for me, because it was Daniel Beasley, who's actually one of my UKIT teammates. We won the UKIT season this week, and we saw it come up, and we were literally chatting, and we were like, "Oh, we're playing each other. Cool, great." And we were like, "At least it's the first round and not the last. We can kind of bounce back from it if one of us loses." And then we had connection issues.
Oh.
So my Switch wouldn't connect to the internet to start off with, so we hadn't even started the game. They came over, fixed it. We got into the game. We played turn 1. He led Prim Talon and protected on the Prim. Oh no, he didn't protect on the Prim. I led Gardevoir in DD. I spammed on both spots, and he loses Talonflame. This is game 1, and then as Talonflame goes out and we're going into turn 2, the very end of turn 1, disconnect.
Oh.
Unfortunately, the rules state that a 4-3 is a tie.
Oh.
So you don't get to replay that turn. You tie the turn. We then had 2 games to play. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, if one player wins game 2 and one player wins game 3, because of the tie, you go into a 4th game, which is sudden death.
Oh, right.
So whoever KOs the Pokemon first, or KOs the first Pokemon, wins. That's how it's played. So the first Pokemon KO'd, you win. Luckily, I managed to avoid that. So I did win it in 2-0 sets. Because of the second game, I led the same. He led the same because we made a gentleman's agreement to do that. And then in the third game, because I knew he was going to bring the King Gambit over the Primarina slot, I brought Sneasler over the Gardevoir slot, which forced him into a Terror because I CC'd into that slot. Because if he hadn't, it would have KO'd, which meant now my spam just hit everything on the field. Like, he lost the resistance, he couldn't not hit it. And then because he then KO'd my Indeedee, I was free to bring in my Gardevoir that outsped everything on the field.
Oh, wow. I'm reading Choice Gardevoir right at the end there. It's such a throwback to some very old text. I mean, I make this joke every single time, but being a fan of random double battles, the Choice Scarf Gardevoir is the go-to, and having that saved for the back in that format has been like a traditionally like very, very good play, and it's got so much. I mean, having the spread of moves that Gardevoir gets just makes it that really great Choice Scarf Mon back in the back there. So very well played. I've seen Dread Mumbo also saying that they've played Daniel in the cup as well. They played them on Sunday, so nice one, Dread, and welcome on in. They're facing the sudden death there, but I mean, in round 1 as well, what a way to start off a day with a DC and then potentially going on to sudden death. We've got your next matchup here as well. So round 2 against Daniel, and they've got a Psyspam there. Well, they've got the Indeedee there, but also with that Typhlosion and the Whimsicott. Well, how did you handle that kind of manual weather core?
I'm trying to remember what they bring. So they didn't bring the Whim at all.
Wow, okay. Yeah. Very interesting.
Which I was quite surprised with. So they brought the Indeedee, the Sneasler, Dragonbolt, and Typhlosion. Now, what I completely messed up in this matchup was the speed tiering in Typhlosion being slower than everything else I had, but the problem was Sneasler and Dragonbolt were faster than everything else I had, other than my Scarf Gardevoir. So I sat there like, this is an awkward matchup for me to deal with. The good thing is, so we both had male and DD. We both had the same moveset. I was able to imprison before he could imprison. Which meant I could imprison, and then I was able to get off a Terra Psychic Psyspam on turn 1. He did Terra his Sneasler as well into Terra Dark, so that was a Terra Dark Sneasler, which made the matchup a little bit harder, but I took the risk of kind of going, okay, I'm going to just go for the side spam. If he doesn't terror, I get the KO. If he does, then I can pivot out and change it round. The following turn, I went into Trick Room, moved across, managed to remove a couple of Pokemon as they switched in and out. And then I was left in this really awkward position where I had Corviknight, non-terror, and Garchomp on the field, with Garchomp being too fast versus Typhlosion versus a Typhlosion and Sneasler. I sat there until 5 seconds before locking in my move because I remember this moment because I was so happy it went right. I was about to double lock into the Typhlosion, and I went, nah, he's not protecting the Sneasler. Brave Bird into the Sneasler, into the Typhlosion. Got the right, he didn't protect. I Brave Birded in, and then he Heat Waves with Specs Heat Wave. Corviknight goes down, and my Garchomp lives on 17 HP, which wins me. So I was like there, like after that game, I was like, right, I cannot go Trick Room again, despite them having a speed advantage. I still lead the same Gardevoir in DD. However, this time I focus more around throwing out Dazzling Gleams as damage, alongside combining it with Terra Blast on the following turn. Obviously, the first turn, he leads the same again. However, this time, once I imprison his Indeedee, he switches in Typhlosion, which I call because he protects on the first turn, Sneasler, and then he gets imprisoned, which confirmed to me that I was faster, which I kind of knew. And then he brings in his Typhlosion, which I just went for an Expanding Force plus D-Gleam to cover for non-Terra and Terra Sneasler. And that kind of put the Typhlosion to like 20%. So he kind of just let it go down in the following turn. That kind of let me kind of roll through the game on that one. So I won that one in 2 clean sets.
Nice.
So it was quite an easy, like it was an easy game, but I had to make a couple of predictions to kind of go, okay, you're going to do this, and if you don't do this, then I'm going to punish you for your passive play.
Very interesting. If you were to say that there was a matchup that you found particularly troublesome, what was one of the more taxing ones for you?
Matchup in terms of the team. My round 3 loss against the Unaware Dondozo, as I said, I just didn't figure out the line until afterwards. The Dondozo with coaching Sneasler was just an issue, and I just couldn't figure out the line, how to get it to not do too much damage. It being unaware, I accidentally didn't read the team sheet correctly. Game 1 brought Corviknight into it, and then when it liquidationed me, I was like, that's a lot of damage, and I'm +2. I think that's unaware, and I double checked the sheet. I was like, yeah, it's unaware. And I think that was probably one of my regular themes in my losses of, I haven't read the team sheet. In terms of player, round 7. Really good. I'm going to try Ganzini. He is last year's Bologna special event winner.
Oh, right, wow. So quite a hefty card.
Hefty card to take in round 7, yeah. I was really pleased how I played game 1. I completely destroyed him.
All right.
I'm not going to lie. I still had 4 Pokemon when he had 1. And then he has Terra Psychic Mungus. So my brain is fantastic, because I go, right, you need to bring Sneasler. You don't bring Corviknight in this matchup. Start the game. I go, okay, I'm clean. You know, he's going to Terra his Amoonguss. I know this. I've got Sneasler in the back. Go to my party, Corviknight. I'm there like, what have I just done to myself? Why have I done this? And I'm there like, why? I'm just sat there like, how can I hard play this to not lose to the Archaludon? I'm there like, I need to get rid of Pelipper, and I need to deal with the Amoonguss, because it's just going to be free to sport everything right now. Unfortunately, that's what happened. He just sported everything. And I was like, cool, I've got... Corviknight came out in front of an Archaludon, a Basculegion. I was like... even if I get this to +1, that electro shot is killing me.
Yeah.
It's not doing well. I can't Terrafire because it's in front of Basque Legion. And I was like, cool, I've just kind of lost this game off of that bring. Third game, he leads Basque Legion not Indeedee, Among Us, Terra Psychic straight off the back. He knows that's his Terra, so he's not wasting any time. I brought Sneasler and Indeedee to the front. I try and make the hard read of going for the Terra Dark, Terra Psychic on it. It low rolls on that Indeedee, so I think he had a really bulky not Indeedee, I keep saying Indeedee, Among Us, and it lives. His Basque Legion pivots out into the Pelipper, and I get spoiled. So I was like, cool, that's just a day, you know. It was just like that it is what it is.
I'm so curious as to what Terra Psychic Among Us does, apart from obviously resist Psychic. Why that over Terra Dark? I'm so confused. They just didn't want to take the close combat from Sneasler after it. I think the Dire Claw.
I think it's generally like that. It's just got a very good matchup into Psy Spam, and that team in particular doesn't have a good matchup into Psy Spam. It was non-wide guards Pelipper, so it was Tailwind, so you don't have an answer into the Psy Spam. It's there as a utility one, and kind of helps out that matchup, I think. But you know, we're both sat at the round 7. Both of us not doing so well.
Oh, really? Obviously, after round 4, you really pushed through them like next 3 rounds, and then finishing off that one against Ellie there at the end. I mean, they went for the double dragon, but how did you find that matchup there as your last match of the day?
So Ellie Holman is actually Alberto Lara's fiance.
Oh, really?
Funnily enough, after round 4, I met Alberto Lara, was speaking to him, and then she came over and we had a little chat. So when we both sat down at the table, I was like, oh, hey, it's you again. Like, how are you doing? Blah, blah. And I kind of guessed it because it obviously said US on her bit. You got your name, you get to see which country people are from. I kind of thought, oh, Alberto's here. I think that might be his fiance. Went over, saw her, we chatted for a little bit, and it was nice to chat to her and play against her. Double Dragon was interesting. It was interesting in regards to her leading the Hydreigon and Whimsicott, because I led the Gardevoir and Indeedee. Now, for people thinking that, they're like, oh, that might be silly to do. However, the Hydreigon does not want to take a Moonblast to the face, so I know I'm pretty free to just double Psy Spam here, right? Because everybody's like, oh, I can Tailwind and get damage onto you, but it won't actually KO. So I was kind of like, okay, I'm free to just double Psy Spam. You're going to Terrafire. You're going to take a huge ton of damage. Whim's going to go down, and I just have to deal with a couple of turns of Tailwind, and I'll bring my Drifblim in the back to then match that Tailwind. The Drifblim is EV'd to survive a Terra Steel Make It Rain.
Oh, wow.
So she had Choice Specs on her Golden Go, and she had Choice Scarf on her Garchomp. So I was like, this is going to be okay for me to live these hits. So I was able to get my own Tailwind up on the following turn after losing Gardevoir in that other turn. With that being said, it went to game 3, and if she hadn't locked into Earthquake on her Garchomp, when I managed to take out her Hydreigon, and she went for Rock Slide instead, she would have won.
Oh,
so that's how marginal it was. However, she would have had to have a Rock Slide flinch on my Sneasler on the other side. So she needed the Rock Slide flinch on my Sneasler to allow her to win that, because my Sneasler took out the Hydreigon and then outsped and then the Golden Go being brought at the front, and I had already taken it down to around 30%. So I was able to KO that quite easily. However, the guard chomp outsped the Golden Go, Earthquake, KO'd the Golden Go, and then was able to take out. Well, I didn't manage to take out the guard chomp because my Sneasler went down, but I had Drifblim on the field, and obviously Earthquake cannot touch Drifblim.
So they were just locked in there, yeah.
Yeah, so they were just locked in, and that's how I won game 3. So a little bit of luck there.
Oh, that's fair. I mean, that's pretty good as well. I mean, it sounds like you had quite an interesting experience. You got to talk to quite a lot of really cool players. If we have a quick look at the top 8 that we've got here as well from there, we saw some fantastic favourites as well hitting that top team. The Indeedee, the Corviknight as well, of course, the Sneasler, and you know, the Tyranitar Sand coming back there from Nils. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, it's really interesting to see that the last match of the whole tournament was a weather war between sand and snow. I just found that particularly, I mean, interesting. What are your kind of overall thoughts around the feel of the regional? You know, if we talk about EU versus US and what kind of team compositions are really popping up in there, because it's quite, well, what feels like very late into the regulation now.
So the first things I would say is balance is very popular. So the Magmar, Electabuzz, Dragapult balance with either you've got the Dozo or the Primarina version. So Juan Garcia, who I think finished top 4, I believe, on that chart.
Yeah.
He was kind of the innovator of that at Dortmund and went undefeated at Dortmund, and then he's also had a really good run at Lille, going 13-2. So you look at that and go, that's a really strong team. Then you get Victor Medina's team, which is Gabriel Agata's team, which has gone first, second at regionals. So it's again another really strong team. And then you start to look a little bit lower, and everything starts to get a little bit more creative into what's kind of been on offer. So Eduardo Cunha, he's been running Samurott pretty much all Regulation H, I believe. I think he got really unfortunate to run into Niels on top 8. I just don't think his matchup into Niels' team is that great. Not a lot of things do a huge amount of damage to what he has on his 6. Obviously, Fabian is running kind of a standard Rain with Rillaboom and Electabuzz slapped onto the team alongside Gambit. So you've got Rain plus balance. And then you've got the Marc Cotier Island running the Executor team, the top forward. They just have the hat over the Hisuian Zeraora.
That team with the Hisuian Zoroark is just I mean, that's such an interesting concept there. But they go for the more straight up side spam there with the Sunroom tech. I think that's really interesting, and it's really nice. I mean, I've got to throw it out to everybody there who's running the the Executor. I just think that's so cool. And then, I mean, we got to give another shout out as well. 2 weeks in a row, Max Waterman here, the bottom top 8. Everyone who knows them well as Simiport in the Discord, congratulations on hitting top 8 in the Lille Regional there. I mean, we really did last week. We said the only way is up, and there we go, proving it straight there. So congratulations, Max.
Yeah, and it was great seeing him around the place. Like, we had a couple of chats, and I will always remember he came over to me for his when he had won his elimination bracket, and I was chatting, I did go blah blah. He said, "Oh, it went well, blah blah." But I think I'm playing Marco Silva next.
Oh yes, he did play Marco Silva.
And I said, "Don't worry, mate. He's going to learn to fear your name." And I was like, "Don't worry, he's going to learn to fear your name for future events." And then he went and won that round. I was like,
"You knew."
Oh, I told you. I was like, done it.
Oh,
but
Marcus,
yeah, Max
had
an absolute amazing tournament. I know he got a bit unfortunate in his top 8 game against Victor Medina as well. But you know, he's had an absolutely fantastic tournament. He's been so consistent every single tournament I've seen him at. I even saw him on day one, at the end of the day one, and was going around the other players. Oh, how do you do? How do you do? Turned to Max. I went, I don't need to ask you. You day two'd already. Went, oh, I don't always. And I was like, mate, you've day two'd pretty much every tournament. Every time I turn up, you've day two'd.
Brilliant.
I don't need to ask you. I know you have. And he just kind of smiled. I was like, yeah. Yeah. And then the interesting story for me was I finished 256th in position. And for anyone who doesn't know that, that means I gained 60 CP plus 9 TCG packs.
Hey, very nice.
Which wasn't the case, though.
Oh.
So, Sam Taverner, who was one of the players who made stream and unfortunately missed out on his day two in his final game, due to a scale shot miss again.
Ooh.
Let's point out the RNG here. He got the poker data up to check everyone's results, refined it down to UK, and I was next to him and he was just checking everyone else. He was like, "You're this, blah blah, you're this position." He turned to me and was like, "You're not gonna want to see your result." I was like, "No, just tell me." He was like, I was like, "You're joking," because Sam's goes to my locals, so we're quite good friends, and I was like, just tell me, you're joking. He went, "You're 257. You have to be 256 or up to game point."
Oh.
I'm kind of there going, I've just fought back from losing 3 games on the bounce to get 4-4, and I knew I had an outside shout of points. And I was like, I'd rather be 258 than 257.
Yeah.
I was literally sat there going, oh, like, that. I was just... like I was speaking to some of my friends and they were just like, sorry, like, and I was like, I'm just fuming that I let things slip. I didn't push myself high enough. We went away, came back because one of my friends forgot their bag, and I was like, I just need to double confirm this. I saw the sheets were being printed out. I went over, found the sheet that was 200s, and started scrolling down the list like this. And 256, Simon Idol. I was like,
Yo!
I was like, how is this happening?
Oh.
So, apparently, for anyone who doesn't know, if you go to the wrong table at any round, play that game, even win or lose, you will get an auto loss.
Okay.
Apparently, someone above me did that, which meant they went 3-5 instead of 4, and therefore I got pushed up.
Wow.
So obviously they had won their game. That's why on poker data I showed as 257. But when the results officially got put through and the judges figured out what had gone on, he got recorded as a loss.
Wow.
So I got pushed up and I had higher resistance than the person who was awarded the loss. So for anyone going to a regional, make sure you go to the right table.
Oh, well.
I was literally like, oh my god, I've just got so fortunate there. So 60 CP and my world's run is still moving forward.
Well, I've got to say, I mean, everybody give it up. Thank you so much, CptAuro, for coming by and gifted us with your stories this week. We really, really appreciate you having it on. If you've got anything else you would like to shout out before we go, and before I just throw it back to the audience.
Quickly on the regional, because I think this is quite funny. Regionals are really fun, and I will say this, I had so much fun at this regional just due to all the people who were around us and the people I spoke to. But in the final, the Spanish players, when the Corviknights got frozen, so this is something you won't see on stream, and this is why you do need to turn up to regionals. All the Spanish players were doing this for the frozen Corviknight, and every time the Corviknight was about to, like, they had a chance to unfreeze, all the Spanish players who were sat behind all the Spanish players just went like this. Like, you had just a row of Spanish players just go boom, And that's the kind of like fun atmosphere you get at a regional. So definitely, if you can get to one, I recommend it. In regards to shout outs, I'm going to give shout outs to Noah for Manny. They helped me with the team. All the boys in the team builder chat as well. Once I got the team and I shared it with everyone, they helped out. All the people I met at the regional, as I said, I had such a great time. Like, I spoke to so many people from so many different countries, got to know everyone. I'm going to my next regional in Thanks. I'm really looking forward to re-seeing everyone. And also my coach, Azarelli, just for the help on that one. Because, yeah, I definitely feel like his coaching helped me get 4-4 and not go negative. So 100%.
Amazing. That's really, really great. And I mean, thank you again so much for coming on. And it's really great. I mean, I just imagining, the Spanish players, they've got their frozen Corviknights, and we've got our football chants that we will definitely do one day when we get enough Corviknights out there. That would be brilliant. Okay, so thank you so much to Carlos, Big Boy Blue, Dread Mumbo, Kai, Shortbread Dread, and JD for coming by today to the stream. And no, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. A good evening to you too. Shortbread Dread, Sam versus Zoe was a cool game, not gonna lie, very, very cool. And again, thank you so much. Meet us next week. We do have, I think, a normal episode planned. Alex is back. Again, for anyone who joined in at the end, Alex wasn't here today because he's getting married. So prepare your congratulations for him. And look after yourself. And as my friend IronMac404 would say, ice cream sandwiches are not for Maraudons. Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.